Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to a Euro 2022 qualifier edition of Top Tier Talk. We'll start off with, I suppose, the elephant in the room and England. Um, is Southgate going to get sacked? Probably. I suppose he only has one tournament left.
Well,
So,
guys, yeah, that's a good place to start. Didn't it come out last week that after the Euros, 2024 Euros, by the way, he will be gone, and
well,
wasn't Pep like trending all over?
that's when his contract expires. So, in terms of that, whether he leaves, gets fired, or doesn't sign a new contract, or whatever the outcome is,
Mm.
was he straight off the Hodgson, or was it either way? It was that or Allardyce or whoever else wasn't here for a long period of time, were they? So I say he's
I think
probably,
it was after Allardyce. I've
but
got
that
a
wasn't
fit.
here a long time, was it? He was here for like one game and won it, and then there was that whole backhander
Yeah,
scandal. So either way, he's been in the best part of 10 years at least. So
yeah. I mean, it's like
that's a long time
three
in any job
tournaments,
in
is a lot.
football.
Yeah,
Yeah, any job in football, let alone obviously
yeah. Well,
a team that's
yeah,
seen as underperforming quite often. This isn't English bias, but we've probably got one of the. It's probably between us and France in terms of Euros wise for best squad. Obviously, provided we both qualify, we should both qualify in terms of the positions we're in qualification groups. But I'd probably say it's between us and France in the Euros. Really, realistically,
really.
yeah. Like out
I don't
like
think it's someone like Spain with like all these young players like Gavi and Pedri and
squad
stuff.
squad wise, I'd say probably us. Like overall squad,
We have got a good squad. I'm
yeah.
just trying to think of other. Obviously,
No, there are-
France
you've
is
Even
got
like
yeah.
the pinnacle.
Netherlands exists. They've got some
Germany, Germany got
something's coming
like
through there.
That's
Germany.
it's the
Yeah,
argument that could be just English confidence, but I've announced it many times on it before. I hate England, so for me to say that,
you
I
don't
I,
hate England. Come
You
I
on,
hate
hate
guys.
England.
I know I hate watching England because it's the same boring football every time. But for me to say that, like I feel like they're up there is sort of I say a big thing for me. It's just words come out of my mouth, but you know what I mean. Like
No, but
Yeah,
Dan,
I
you
think
said
that,
they were going to win the World Cup.
I didn't. I had Argentina down.
Did
I
you?
swear I had Argentina down. Yeah.
Okay.
well, it doesn't
I
matter
feel
about
like
that.
so.
But
You've never said England are going to win a tournament across the last few years.
Oh, I must have done, but
well, I'm going to say it
Yeah.
now. I'm going to come out with the biggest thing. He's the second. So if Southgate leaves or when he leaves, he will be England's second best manager of all time, despite being probably the most opinionated manager we've ever
But
had.
he's lucky because he's got probably
He's
the
got
best set
lucky,
of
but if you
English
look at
players of all time. Just if you
well,
go for pure talent, this generation of English players for me is now the best in history. I
I
don't
was
care about
I
your
was going to say who
Steven
would
Gerrard's,
yeah the
Lampards, and
golden
better than the
Scholes.
generation.
Like
golden generation. Do you think it's better than the golden
I
generation?
think this now the talent we have, talent in England that we have,
We
the
coming
country of
from
England,
coming from the Irishman
Should
from
we do
we.
that? Should
the
we go
talent.
off player for player? Should we do
Yeah,
like
I bet if you just go pure talent, then
Dan? What would you
this
say is probably
generation's better.
the pinnacle of when England's best in the golden generation, the best?
That 2005 to 2000 sort of not when we didn't when we failed to qualify under Steve McLaren.
You think?
That
Oh
that
wait, I'm
squad,
thinking like oh
that
the
sort of
Euros.
that season I say that period. Sorry,
I think that's a very bold shot. I think the golden generation team when we had like the Sven team and like that team was definitely much better than this.
No, you had
If we went player
standout
for
names, but there's like certain
no,
positions
but these
where England
players were
weren't
like
very good. Like now, the right back is good. Now the left back is good. I don't think they were that good. They were just in good
I
teams.
think I think in
let's
terms
do it
of
then. That's what I wanted to do. If we go player for player, I think I can vaguely remember for each
I mean
position.
I'll get it up
All right,
roughly.
I think we
the
should do it.
goalkeeper. Who's
Is
the goalkeeper?
is either David James or Paul Robinson for England and Pickford, which I assume
I
Pickford
think
would.
Pickford's better
I agree, Pickford.
It depends. Yeah,
for
if you're, I was
England.
going to
Yeah,
say if
he
you're
is.
picking England form,
No,
then
I'm
yeah.
not saying for England. I think overall player. I think you
I
can't
think
just
even
go.
in general, yeah, goalkeepers are better these days.
Well, right back is
Um,
Gary Neville, Carl Walker, and
Kyle Walker,
how
absolutely, Kyle Walker by a mile. That there you go, centre back.
JT and Ferdinand
Okay,
beats
fine.
any
That's all. All right, that's one position. Yeah, two left
left
back.
back. Ashley Cole beats Luke Shaw.
I think Luke Shaw beats Ashley Cole if you're talking purely off England. Luke Shaw scored in the final in the Euros for England.
Yeah, but if we're
But
talking
I thought we
England,
were
then
overall players.
if we're
If we're
doing
going for
overall
England, I
players,
think
What's
Ashley.
Ashley Cole actually done for England?
That's what I'm saying. If we're basing it off player,
but then what's the point of doing the thing? If you're doing it based on their England career, obviously this current England team that got to the final is going to be any single
Okay, fine,
answer. I
fine.
think
All
we
right, give it to Cole. Okay, by pure quality, Cole is better than Luke Shaw. Yes.
yeah.
DM.
Well, they didn't really have a DM, did they? It was just two in
Right,
midfield.
midfield.
Gerard
It was
Lampard,
Gerrard
and
and
then
Lampard.
yeah, With who?
Okay, fine.
That's going to be Declan Rice and Jordan Henderson, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
And then
Can we not pick one or the other?
mm,
I don't want
left
Henderson
mid.
in the team.
Left mid's going to be Paul Scholes, wasn't it? They put Paul Scholes at left mid.
And that's
Or-
not going to
or
work, is it? Like, I think
Grealish or
Sterling
Sterling.
has done more. Like, yeah,
Yeah, Sterling. Yeah. Or,
yeah.
or
And then
Rashford.
right wing
Beckham,
Saka.
Beckham over
Yeah.
Saka.
Beckham, yeah.
David Beckham.
Right, fine. Striker
And
Kane.
the striker Kane. That's without a doubt.
Kane or Rooney?
Kane.
Rooney.
Kane, no, Kane.
Okay. Doesn't matter what argument you try and put in there. It shows a little bit
Well,
where he
Still
did
got
admit it as a United
We've
fan.
still got one more player missing.
What,
Well,
attacking
it'll be in the
midfield?
10. It'll be Cole, not Cole.
Well, they do Hendo and Bellingham, so I think Bellingham probably beats.
I just put Bellingham there, chuck him in.
Bellingham would
I
probably.
think the combination of what England have now, Bellingham, Rice, like Foden, Grealish, all of that is better than whoever was available to play in that position back
Michael
then.
Owen.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to. I don't know why I said Cole. That's what I meant. Owen.
He played 10.
Yeah.
Well, no, but if we
put Rooney in the 10 if we like.
Yeah, it's our
Yeah,
team.
to
It's
be
our
fair.
team. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
We'll do Rooney in the 10.
Alright, but
I
okay,
think
fine.
I was going to say, I think the good thing, just as a last point on England before we carry on too much and bore everyone, because as you said, Southgate splits opinion and so does the national team. I think the good thing for us is quite a lot of our squad, apart from the main man, obviously Harry Kane, our best player, is got age on their side. You touched on when we was doing that team, you've got Rice and Bellingham who are still, Bellingham's what?
Saka.
Yeah. Saka, even Grealish isn't obviously particularly old. You look across the defence, we've got Trent and Reece James, providing Reece James can, stay fit. Luke Shaw's, I know he's in his prime now, but you'll still be able to get another 2 tournaments out of him across the defence as well. And even when, for example, Stones goes, still got Colwill coming in, who's probably the only one out of that under-21 squad, I'd say, that would be able to step up to the first team. Even though I know.
Right, let me rephrase it then. Once careers are completed, the actual ability of this squad now will be better than that golden generation. And another thing, I don't think England will ever win anything with Southgate. So you can just give up on the Euros next year and then hope for the World Cup. If he gets a contract extension, then yeah. Because I think it's actually quite embarrassing he hasn't won anything yet. With this level of squad right now, with countries like Germany just like deteriorating. This is and Spain aren't Spain anymore. There's so many countries that have just gone backwards, and England still haven't done anything. Like losing to Italy, that's the epitome of shit. Like Italy were not good.
If Italy didn't qualify, well, they haven't qualified,
which makes it more embarrassing. He's right.
Because they're in our group now. Their game in hand against Ukraine. If Ukraine get another point, I think Italy are out again. They failed to qualify again.
And Ukraine, you lost
and Ukraine are their game in hand. Yeah, but also I've got a question.
And they had to get the goal, and we went ultra defensive. And
yeah, but before we move on, I'll pose a question. Obviously, as you just touched on the Italy final, I would say yes, and I'm sure quite a lot of other fans would be. Would they happily be in Italy's position now with not qualifying for further tournaments and have won the Euros? I think the answer should be yes, because you win a trophy, and you're.
Oh yeah, it's sad. But
that's a question that I'll pose.
You've won it. No one can dispute it.
No.
Yeah. Who remembers who qualified?
Yeah, I would win the trophy, but yeah, I'll pose that to anyone that's watching. Check it in the comments.
Not World Cup, it was Euros. World Cup.
Euros, yeah. It doesn't matter. The trophy's
the World Cup we lost to France. It was France who became Mr. Second Pen.
Yeah. I'd happily win the Nations League at this point, and even that we're relegated into Group B, so we're going to be playing some farmers. Moving on, Chavez. Touched on with Ireland.
Tim Pot.
Do you want to touch on Ireland and your star boy Evan Ferguson not making the team because of an injury?
I mean, we're scoring goals,
which wants to play for England.
No, he did say Evan Ferguson will not play for England. Thankfully, he's got a family that actually, have some standards in the house. But if he did, if he has a career set for him in that striker spot, because Kane's not going to be around forever, but that doesn't matter because he's not. Ida came in, he didn't do too terrible, but he scored 1 penalty. We weren't going to beat France. I think a 2-0 loss to France is actually quite impressive. It could have been 7. Like it's that France are France. So it wasn't the worst. We're not as bad as we were, I think, 2 years ago. We've got some level of hope now with certain players coming through. But at the same time, we're still not good enough for a tournament, especially when countries that suddenly have popped up out of nowhere that are really good now. For example, Slovenia, Denmark, Croatia, for some reason, still carry on. There's some new countries that are Hungary, and they're all quite impressive, and they're definitely better than us. So it's not a case of we deserve to be in the Euros, but we're not. We don't. I don't think we're good enough yet, and we need a few more players to come through before we even can be in that spot. I know is the tournament expanding now? Is there more
I
teams,
think
or is that?
it's.
Am I
No,
making
it's
that
the
up?
World Cup.
Yeah, it's the World Cup, wasn't it? I think.
This is the World Cup. I think Euros has already expanded. So
Yeah,
this
it
is
did
it.
last
So
time out.
based on the current 32 or whatever, Ireland are not there. We're not there.
So how far? I know you said you're a couple of players away, but how far in terms of timings are you away? In terms of, are you thinking World Cup 26, or are you thinking providing we get the bid of Euro 28? Because in terms of that, UEFA have already come out, because obviously it was a joint bid between the home nations, and UEFA have already come out and said, well, 4 is too many to put in as a host nation. So you could host the tournament and also not qualify, and that would be a big disappointment.
That would be
Obviously,
embarrassing.
but we're talking 5 years' time, providing we get the tournament. Do you
I
reckon
think
by then
one of
you'd
the
be there
other
or thereabouts?
issues, one of the biggest issues we have is back when we actually did qualify, I think once in the Euros in 20, maybe it was
16 you did
2012.
well. Am I mistaken, or didn't you do really well in
2016, yeah. So 2016 we qualified, and the issue with that, like the reason why that happened versus now is we had some experience in our team. Like we have some experienced heads who'd actually played for Ireland for a bit. I mean, James McLean still existed back then. Wesley Houlihan had played quite a bit. There's a few players, like some midfielders, I think. What's his name? James McCarthy. They were not like the most incredible players, but they were some. They had a
They'd
position
run
in
through
Ireland. They had
brick walls
experience,
as well.
and we don't really have that. We like
Robbie
now
Gray?
it's Robbie Brady's another one. He was really good in that tournament. Now we don't really have that. We have some exciting talent, but we don't have the kind of old heads that carry you through as well. And that's another thing we're missing. Maybe in 5 years, some players will mature and we'll have some more exciting talent. But right now, it's just not it for a team to be even part of a big tournament. Maybe you're right in 5 years, but to be honest, before Evan Ferguson came about and like a couple of others, I didn't see any hope for Ireland. We didn't really have a next generation, and it kind of really does just rely on Evan Ferguson. So that there's
The
also
most
that.
exciting prospect since like I don't know Grealish or like Declan Rice, or I know they didn't fully like commit to Ireland. Or would you go far back as like a Roy Keane? Or has there been players since then? Would you say am I going too far back in terms of?
No, but even then, we used to be in those tournaments. But again, it was just not. We never had like an exciting player. We just had experienced players that could see out a game. So now we don't have that. That like we do. To be fair, I say that, but then players like James McLean are still about. But now they're too old. Like it's James McLean should not be playing for us. He should be starting. What league does he even play in? But he does because we don't have any availability. So we'll see. We'll see. It just depends on who comes through. But even from what I see now in the future and what players are coming through, we don't have anything that really says yes, we're going to be in Euros. It depends on how good Evan Ferguson is. If Evan Ferguson goes on to be like a top 5 striker in the world, anything can happen. Like a player can carry, but that's so much reliance on one player.
Sure.
Well, I think that's it. Obviously for our home nations in terms of obviously we touched on
Iran
England.
won. I didn't watch the game.
Who
Bulgaria.
was it again? Beat Bulgaria. Bless them.
Mm.
As it stands at the time of recording, Croatia are 1-0 up against Armenia. Not that I suppose anyone really cares. So back to the studio. But in terms of that, there's been an as you touched on France, obviously casually winning. They've got what 5 wins from 5. Portugal got 5 wins from 5.
That's good, Portugal. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no.
It's
Germany lost to Japan. I know, obviously, as you said, touched on just before we started. I know it's not obviously a Euros qualifier, but
and then the manager got sacked. Clearly, it mattered.
I really liked him. I thought he was like going to be. Well, him at Bayern Munich, he was so dominant, wasn't he? That COVID year when they beat like he did the treble, wasn't it? And they beat Bayern Barca 8-2.
PSG in the 8-2 and PSG in the final. It was actually a very good run into the like. They had to play every big team basically.
Very dominant, yeah.
But who are they going to get now? Because this hasn't worked. This Hansi Flick being at Germany.
Nagelsmann's free.
Too young, no. Or he could just go for the job and then do one tournament and leave type of thing. But I don't know. Like Germany they get German managers, don't they?
Yeah. Do you think going to international football is a step down for managers, like top class managers, or not?
I don't think it's a step down. I was having a discussion with someone the other day in terms of international football. For example, we touched on it, it's been in the news and stuff like that. In terms of Pep stepping over, it's not that I'm saying Pep would find it hard, but certain managers would find international management hard because of the style they play. For example, I don't know, when Ten Hag came into United, there was a complete overhaul of what he had to do and he had to implement his style. So obviously, if he goes away into international, goes from, I don't know, I know he's not German, but hypothetically, if he got the German job, he'd have to try and implement his style of play, even if it is close. And you don't obviously get the time in internationals. You get together 6-7 times a year. I don't think it would affect top managers like your select few, but in terms of a jump from club to international or no job to international, I reckon it would affect. But I don't think it's a step down.
Pep will not be able to play the style of football.
No,
He
I,
plays
th- I think, for example, if
limited amount of time, because
no,
it makes sense.
it depends on where he goes. Because, for example, if he did get the England job, he's worked with 4 current players and Sterling, which obviously in the past, and got the best out of Sterling in that City team. Admittedly, he couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, but Sterling, over the course of those years, was a key player in the City machine. So he's got, like them, he's got 5 out of what would be a starting 11. Keeper, you don't necessarily need to work on because that's all keepers are the same now. That's 6. He's got his half of his starting 11. So as I said, in terms of like your top managers, or if you're going to places that you've already players that you've worked with, for example, obviously we touched on Germany with German managers. A lot of them would have worked in the Bundesliga, and a lot of the key German players are in the Bundesliga with Dortmund or Bayern anyway. So I think you'd be okay in that sense, but in sense of other managers going elsewhere, I don't think it's a step down, but I think it's a bigger task.
I think it depends on the manager. So, for example, let's say Nagelsmann. If Nagelsmann today was to become German manager and was never to then leave that post for the rest of his, I don't know, and then didn't delve back into club football, I think that's a downgrade because like he has so much to give to football.
If he wins a World Cup, is that a downgrade? If he wins a Euro,
that's such a like you're gonna see a manager who's so good only manage like less.
I'll give you an example. For example, the Italy manager Lippi, he did club football and stuff. He went to Italy, he won the 2006 World Cup, and in 2010 they couldn't get out of the group. For example, would you class him as a successful or a failed manager? Because in 2010,
it's still success. The moment you win the World Cup, you're immortal, or like the Euros, or even I'd say Nations League. You've at least won something because it's up against so many different countries. But I'm saying, like, for a manager, like that's like working part time when he's ready to work full time. Like he should be at a team looking to win everything, and then he'd just be there for the international breaks. It's strange to me. I don't know. I don't think. But by the way, if he just came in, like for example, we have a Euros coming in a year. So if he did that and then left off the type thing, that's great. Like that's fantastic. That's
was there for a Euros and a World Cup cycle, like 4 or 5 years or whatever.
Well,
but you don't think? Oh, sorry.
If Southgate was to leave his post, what Prem team do you think he would be able to make it a Prem team?
No, he's not good enough for any Premier League team. Gareth
Well, he was at Borough, wasn't he?
But didn't they get relegated, or would they?
I think he got relegated. I don't think he got relegated. I'll fact.
But then you have to look at like. Go into championship teams. Gareth Southgate is not managing Ipswich. Like, no way. They're not replacing Kieran McKenna. Gareth Southgate is not managing. Who's Leicester's manager?
Man United. It was the Man United.
No, but like you're talking about Prem. I don't think any manager will.
You don't think he'll be able to go to like a Forest or like
if Southgate gets sacked, he'll end up at Watford
because we'll be cycling through managers. Stephen Cooper's good.
Luton, you want to be able to go to Luton?
Edwards, I reckon, will be there for a while.
Yeah, Edwards got them there. I ask a Luton fan, they would go on. This is great for whatever. Luton fans, would you take Gareth Southgate as manager? No, I'm not a Luton fan, but I'm sure they said no. Southgate's not managing any English Premier League team, and even some Championship teams. No way.
Go to Saudi.
Yeah, of course.
How successful was? Yeah, That to be fair, that would probably be what happens. But how successful was he at Middlesbrough to warrant being English?
I couldn't find it. It only led me to Borough's current standings, but I'm pretty sure they got relegated.
I was going to ask the question. To be an England manager, you're England manager. You're the top man in England. How many trophies did Southgate win with Middlesbrough? What did he achieve? What did he change in football? I mean, surely that's a standard as an English person you hold. But you can also spin
the argument. They had Fabio Capello, one of the most successful managers in Italian football. Sven-Göran Eriksson, another very successful manager in Italy. They tried that and it failed.
This is the thing.
Yeah, but but you don't just get your average man off the street who's relegated Middlesbrough. Like you still have hold a standard. If good doesn't work, you don't go to shit, and that's what they. To be fair, that's what they did.
Has it not worked?
No, I think this hasn't worked. For people who big up Southgate, he's literally got something incredible players, and he doesn't even use them correctly, and they still got to a final. I think this is just a testament to the players. Them getting to a Euros final, getting to the World Cup semis, was it, or whatever they did, quarter final, doing all
quarters,
of
semis,
that
and
is
the
just
Euros
for the
final.
players. Yeah, doing that, I think it's just to do with the players. I don't rate Southgate in the slightest, not 1%. I think give me a manager like, I don't know, who's a decent manager but not incredible. Give me Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe, I think, wins the Euros that year with this set of players. Yes.
Interesting. That's an interesting.
What? Okay, tell me good qualities about Southgate, Dan, if you're doubting him.
Oh no, I'm not doubting the Southgate.
Yeah,
I don't know if
What good qualities
how-
does Southgate have?
He brings Jordan Henderson, who should.
you know
probably
what?
retire from
I think this is quite an overlooked thing in football, but I know you're probably going to laugh. Like his man management seems to be good. Like in terms of like you must have watched interviews of Lampard, Terry, Gerrard before, and they've all or Cole or whoever who was part of the golden generation we was on about earlier, and they've gone. We weren't a team. We'd sit in. You'd have a Man United table, a Chelsea table, an Arsenal table, a Tottenham table.
Yeah, but that's not to do with Southgate. That's just how they grow up now in English football. Like they start
he
from
must have a
their
part
best
of
friends
it.
from there.
I think he'd have
I
a
think
part
he
of
had
that.
something to do with that. I think
He
was
must have surely, because obviously he would have been part of the England squads that would have been like that, wouldn't he?
No, but he doesn't manage the under-21s or the under-19s.
He
If
did,
you watch
he did
them, they're
before.
all
He did.
cohesive group.
He did.
Manager.
He used to be our
The under
unders
21,
manager.
then became the manager of England.
That's pretty.
Okay,
He
fine.
was already in the
man
setup.
management, one thing, but then he shows favoritism because I would argue as a counter for man management, he shows favoritism to players who then don't give a shit when they're at their club because they know they're going to start when they're at England.
Yeah.
Isn't it
Was that
interesting?
Any
was a
other
clear
good
dig at
qualities?
Maguire, I suppose. That was a clear
Any
dig
other
at
good
Harry
qualities?
Maguire.
I mean,
Any
start
other
very
good qualities?
defensively against Italy after going 1-0 up, and we nearly lost that game. And then on
These
penalties,
are qualities.
Saka and Rashford, and Saka had never taken a penalty before, and yeah, that was terrible. But yeah,
Yeah, no, and then it's all arguments, and it's this and it's that. But in a hypothetical situation, you're a villain until you're a hero. If everyone slates him, and we qualify for the Euros next
they
year,
wouldn't slate him if he
and by
if
some
he did the right stuff.
no, but say he was slated, and for some miracle we win it. That's what I'm saying, by some miracle, because as I said, there's decisions that he'd have to make himself, and as I said, there's doubts and there's arguments and injuries in whatever situation. If England was to win the Euros, no matter what anyone has said in the last 10 years about Southgate, yes, it may ring true, but no one's going to care. Football fans are so fickle, and they change their minds left, right, and centre.
The issue with you losing in the final was you played some of probably the shittest football.
No, I know.
For a country to get to a final. So when you do that, you have to win it.
But yeah, but it
No,
doesn't
but
matter.
yeah,
if,
I'm saying
if
it
we would
doesn't
have won
matter,
it,
but
yeah.
you didn't win it. You didn't win it. So that
and this is why
when you do that and you make the sacrifice, like the fans pay the money in their own country to watch games, and you do that and you don't bring back a trophy. I think that's just the most sackable offence because it was so demoralising watching England play. One game you had Germany, which was okay. Aside from that, it was generally some of the worst football I've seen from a country, and to get to a final.
When it all changed when Müller missed that chance.
Yeah, I don't. But and then that sort of at that moment of you start that stuff. I know it happened, but stuff like that doesn't happen. Thomas Müller isn't that sort of player. Sort of just it looked like it gave everyone sort of a boost of confidence. Maybe overconfidence is the right word to use. Obviously, looking through the rest of the tournament, but yeah, it's a thing of I've said it for years, but Dad said it for years, and so on. It's you'd rather win every game 1-0 and win a tournament. And this is why I find England so frustrating because we'll go. Like I know we drew 1-1 at the weekend, but we'll go. We've got Malta and North Macedonia coming up. Not to slate them or underestimate them, but we should be winning those two games quite comfortably. And
Ukraine comfortably.
As I'm saying, but we'll storm through qualifying. I know obviously we drew to Ukraine, but usually we'll get 8 wins out of 8. We'll tear through teams, and then we'll go off to a tournament, and then we'll lose like in the quarters, like we did to France. That's the frustrating part. Or like in the semis, we did to Croatia.
The France were probably one of the favourites for that.
Oh yeah, it would have been. I think it was us, Brazil, France.
Is it the manner they lost or what? Because
I think
I never brought that game up, Dan, because I actually thought that was a good loss. Like you played 4 at the back, which was I was shocked.
Oh yeah, it's the way we've lost.
You played good football. It's fantastic. I thought your okay. Do you know what? Here you go, Dan. Here's a good one for you. I thought your World Cup run was stratospheres ahead of the Euros run.
In terms of football, yes, but in terms of obviously
you didn't win in both.
No,
You
I
didn't
know.
win- Well,
No,
no,
I know.
it doesn't matter. There's one winner and the rest of the 30 odd
Yeah.
are losers. And you
No,
were
I know.
losers in both, but at least you played some good football to get to the semis in the World Cup.
But there's the argument. I know we lost, and this is a proper loser mentality to have. But
If you say final.
no, No, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Find
But
that wrong, though.
no, I know
Denmark,
it's
we lost to Denmark. We beat. Obviously, we were comfortable against Ukraine. Germany was cool. It was good, but when you go 1-0 up against Italy and
Oh
then
no,
you
100%. I've said it many a
He's
times.
saying just getting to the final is
Yeah.
bigger than what was done at the World Cup.
Okay,
But I
no,
disagree.
but the feeling that I got getting to the final, even if it was through crap football and yes, we lost, is bigger than getting knocked out in the quarters. Getting to a final is the second biggest thing you can do, and yes, it's the second biggest thing, not obviously winning it. But getting to a final is better than getting to a quarters. Doesn't matter what stage it's at or who it's against. Getting to a final is a bigger achievement than getting to a quarter final. Doesn't
Semi.
matter. It was
No, but
quarters.
it's not.
No.
It's
it
just
is
you
getting
both
to a
lose. You
final.
both end up with no one remembers that.
All right. Okay.
Okay, this is good though for the whatever for the
It's-
TikTok
it's-
whatever.
it's based
You're
on
saying that
perspective.
England's Euros run is better than England's World Cup run
In terms
based
of
on
getting
everything.
to, in terms of
Based on
getting,
everything.
yeah,
Yeah,
getting
but
to a
if you base
final
on
is better.
anything, he's right. If he
Getting
was
to a
based
final is
on
better than getting
anything,
to
he's
quarters.
right.
100%.
No, you lost
He
in
said-
both. It's two
Yeah, but you
losses,
came
and
second
you
in
play
one
better football in the
tournament
World Cup.
instead of you became second in one tournament,
Yeah,
and then the other
yeah.
tournament you
You
finished
came what 8th or 10th or whatever he came.
10th or
But
don't
Shabazz,
even-
I'm not saying.
That's
I'm not
terrible
saying.
mentality.
You're talking about the brand of football.
Yeah,
Obviously, the World Cup football
the brand of
is
football's
better.
terrible, but the fact is we got to a final. Just scrap the how
Okay,
we
okay,
played.
all right.
Getting to
Let
the
me
final was
propose
a
you
bigger
this.
achievement.
I have a better
Okay,
question. So
Shabazz.
now the Euros, no. Euros 2024 is coming up. Would you rather play absolute shit football, get to the final, and lose like Euros 2021 or 2020, or would you rather get to the semi-final, play a fantastic brand of
Yeah, it
football,
wasn't the
enjoy it,
semis.
get knocked out respectfully to a country that's incredible?
It wasn't the semis. It was the quarters, though. But
Okay, I'm going to absolutely rephrase. I'm going to no, Dan. Let me rephrase all of that for the TikTok. Dan, would you rather? Okay, would you rather in Euro 2024 have a similar tournament to Euro 2020 where you have terrible football but you get to the final and then lose, or would you rather, similar to World Cup 2022, have play decent football, good football, get to the quarterfinals and lose to a respectable nation, playing some aggressive,
all day long,
forward-thinking football?
Get into a final. The feeling of getting to a final. I was in tears. I'll happily admit that I was in tears. Just get into a final is.
But if you reach the final, I'm thinking about another one. You give Southgate another contract.
This is the thing, Dan.
You could be playing.
In that state, I hope we lose all of our qualifying games and don't even make it if we're basing it off if Southgate gets another contract. But no, final, 100%.
Well, then my big question for you two is, and who would you like to see if Southgate was to leave after the next Euros to be England manager?
We have this discussion every time a Euros qualification group comes around, and it doesn't matter who we say.
Because it looks like he's not going to. In my opinion, he's going to leave.
It can be anyone, to be honest. I think anyone's an upgrade on Southgate that has operated at the Premier League level. Has Southgate ever managed a Premier League team?
Borough
were in the Prem.
Were in the Prem when he managed them.
Yeah.
But that was
has he ever kept a team up in the Premier League? Was that one-time relegation with Borough?
I think it was just a one-time relegation.
Because I think instantly, if that's the case, then any manager who's successfully not been relegated,
like he became he was a player, and then it was because he was really young. I remember it.
Yeah, it was very early on.
Get a manager that's not been relegated before and has operated in the Premier League, and instantly you have someone better than Southgate.
Do you think Eddie Howe or Graham Potter would win?
Oh, Eddie Howe would be fantastic because he's an Englishman as well.
I'd take Graham Potter as the next England manager.
I think that could actually be it.
He's out of a job. He hasn't had a job in what?
He rejected
how long
Leon.
was it? How long has it been a year, roughly? Off the top of my head. 6, 8 months.
It's not even been long.
Yeah. So he hasn't had a job in that long, so he hasn't spent too much time out of football.
Good brand of football.
Yeah, and I know he failed at Chelsea, but it doesn't matter who Chelsea have got at the minute. They're all failing left, right, and centre, players and managers.
Yeah, I don't think that's anything on him.
So yeah,
but yeah. And Southgate works well without transfer windows to he doesn't necessarily rely on a transfer window. He did it with Brighton, not with too many incomings. Chelsea, it was an absolute mess with all the incomings. So I think under the confinement of that, he'd be good.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to find Southgate's managerial record. So if we're still.
Whilst you're looking at that, Chavez, a little go into I was going to say the Premier League game. Who have you got on the weekend quickly, and we'll just do a little prediction. Who you think?
Very quickly, United Brighton. I don't know what the team's going to be. Anthony's not playing, of course, because he's fighting his demons right now. 3 of them in Brazil. I don't know. It's Brighton, but it's Old Trafford, so I think we'll win 2-1. But only because it's Old Trafford. At Brighton, we get absolutely battered.
We've got Chelsea's Bournemouth. Chelsea. We're away. I think we'll win 1-0.
You'll win.
I think
You have to. 1-0 though.
I think that's a good time.
Should we call it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Southgate's won more England games than he's lost, but that was obvious. But yeah, tune in next week for the Premier League being back. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.